Hello and welcome to another artist talk from the That Which Was Will Come Again show at the Gallery at Atlantic Wharf. I'm Kimberly Barnes. I'm the programs manager of the Fort Point Arts community. Here at FPAC, we strive to bring cultural vibrancy to Boston, Massachusetts, and more importantly, support artists in the New England area. I'm here with Rina Naik. Rina is a New England artist, designer, and educator. Ms. Naik holds a certificate in drawing and painting from RISD CE and an MFA in interior design. Rina's paintings are her visual and emotional responses to the New England landscapes. She's participated in numerous shows and has received awards of merits and excellence. Her work can be found in numerous private collections also. Thank you again, Rina, for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kim, for this opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Um, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your work?
Sure. So I bring a dual background to my artwork. I am a trained interior designer, interior architect, and also a fine artist. And both those disciplines have informed my work. My paintings are heavily influenced by the New England landscape. I feel we live in one of the prettiest parts of the world, and just the ocean and the horizon and the skies, I'm just enamored with them. So my work is very influenced by them. I am also, as I mentioned, my background in interior architecture also makes me aware of how human beings respond to their environment, and how we find our place in the landscape, and how it kind of informs to our well-being, so to speak.
Mhm.
So to me, they're all one thing, and they're all influencing each other. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of nutshell of what I'm doing.
That's amazing. Thank you. Can you explain a little bit about your roles more? Like you're an artist, interior designer, educator. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, definitely. So I have, as an artist, I have my independent Venus studio through which I do my paintings, and I'm in shows, and I'm a member of like a lot of different artists collaborative and 4.2. But then also because I have so much I have education and I have a work experience in the interior architecture field. I have transitioned to from practice to mostly teaching, and which I absolutely adore, because to me they're all very connected. So I am actively teaching in the 4-year graduate and in the continuing education program. I'm also teaching art. So I'm just so happy. I just love teaching because I think it's a great way to grow. I become better as a an artist, a professional, by being able to share.
Yeah, it's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the color palette that you use in your work? What types of emotions are you trying to evoke with your color palette? And also, if you could explain a little bit about your process too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting question, Kim. No one has ever asked me exactly about my color palette, you know? So, yeah, for my color palette, I feel like I like to say I have an expanded color palette. You know, how you have like, your true two reds, two blues, two greens. But I kind of expand them because I also love to explore the transparencies and opacities of color and the color temperature. So this is where I'm again my two worlds kind of collide, and so I use whatever I want to. I really do change out. So sometimes I will change out my alizarin crimson permanent for maybe quinacridone red, or to a cad red light. So it is kind of, I do think I favor oranges a lot. I don't know, I just gravitate towards that. And I love blues and purples for contrast. So it's like yellows, oranges, and blues and purples are, so I have multiple colors of them, and I always am looking to explore a new kind of something that comes out. But if you tell me to tell you about my plein air palette, which forces you to have a really, select few, then I do kind of use a very, it's not a fully 12 color palette. I do kind of use two yellows, I'll add one orange and two blues. And I like to mix all my greens there. So that becomes a really smaller palette because I don't like to carry a big gear when I'm out there. So,
Yeah, awesome. And what types of locations do you do your plein air work?
so I have been going to generally to the Cape. I love Truro, Wellfleet, and those were two of the places where I have really worked, gone and spent some time before the summer rush gets there. And also I have gone to Rhode Island. I have a few friends in Little Compton and Dartmouth, and any place there is a water, get me near the ocean, and if there's a horizon line, there I am. So I love those places. But then also I was traveling to Western Mass. I mean, I have to go to Mass Mocha at least once
Yeah,
every
I
season.
love Mass Mocha.
And then one of the paintings kind of came, that is actually in the Fort Point show, came from that, because, there is a big hairpin curve that you take in North Adams. And that has captured my imagination for like 10 years. And I always said, I'll do a painting. But then when I talk about my process, I'll show you, if I don't get a chance to do a plein air on site as an information gathering, then how I try to capture and be authentic to the place.
Yeah, could you explain a little bit like how you try to stay in the place, like if you're not actually at the location?
Sure.
Yeah.
To that, I would say like, I'm going to show you a little of my sketchbook. This is kind of my sketchbook, which is almost complete. So I just pulled this one out in
That is
preparation
really
for
cool.
this. That when I go to a place, this is for the Cranberry Bog in behind Gillette Stadium.
Mhm.
So what I do is, if I don't have a time, I will do a quick sketch, like as you see here. I will quickly add some tones of what I'm thinking, what's captivated my interest in that location, and then I move on to, you see these color swatches.
Mm.
So sometimes I have watercolors with me, and or gouache, a little set, and I just try to capture what I'm seeing or what really spoke to me there. So and then I do some writing too. So if you, I think if you could, read things here. It talks about like how what the temperature was, what I
Mm.
felt, what was my emotion, what first caught my attention. So I try to capture all of these things, because memories are great, but sometimes this helps me. This puts me back into the place when I come back to my studio.
Mm. Oh, I think that's great, especially just thinking about like how you feel and like how the wind feels on your face or like the smells or like the sounds. I think that's a really great way to sort of put yourself back into the space to create. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to quickly show you this too, because sometimes it's easy to see an example and then kind of have a conversation
Yeah,
about that. So this little piece was done on site. So I
that's
use
beautiful.
plein air for two things. Sometimes just to capture a place, get me back into kind of painting. And this is one of those examples. But then there are some, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I'm glad, but the holiday sales have been really good for these small pieces.
Oh, congratulations.
It's sometimes when I see something and the sky is changing color, I, to myself, I make notes of like, oh, that looks like a little alizarin crimson with a little bit of like maybe cobalt blue added to it. And for me, I remember that
Mhm.
better than just trying to pictures. You can't take pictures of colors,
Yeah.
so and sometimes I just come back and actually just try to paint them. This one is still in progress, but this was a little, as you can see, there's a lot of pinks and blues and yellows. And if you actually look at the sky, my gosh, these colors are all there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there are two ways that I use nature, but my work is really grounded in nature.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love just kind of seeing the process of your building up into the colors that you've seen in the sky. It's amazing. Yeah. Um, have people, or sorry, have like your fans or like people who've like looked at your work, have they ever talked about the emotions that they feel like while looking at your work?
Um, yes, people always see this, it kind of like I had a painting that was very kind of very blue and very nocturnal, and it had just like this little opening in the middle that had some light, and it had a little bit of oranges and shades of orange in there. And I remember the person who bought the painting said, "Oh, this looks like a storm, but that's the anchor that's holding me in there." And
Wow.
that became like a thing for her. So that's the other reason why my work is more on it walks this line. It kind of is still, it is landscape, the structure is there, but it also has room for you. I want to invite you, the viewer,
Yeah.
bring your own experience. And landscape, we all live in landscape, so I feel like it's such a common place to meet everyone's kind of like feelings and emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, would you say that like landscapes and nature influence your interior designing as well?
Yes, I would say that I've always found like natural materials, and there is this whole conversation, and I don't want to go too much into the theory in architecture that's relevant, but they always talk about this thing called phenomenology, which is all about like, and then they talk about this whole idea about like how using wood is like a living thing. Like if it is a beam in your home is passed down through generations, and it's a marker of time, because it's a real thing. A wooden chair will register every time you sit and get up on it. And so I am very, very inclined towards very natural products, and also living in landscape where interior opens into exterior. To me, and that's the other part of it, I feel really privileged to kind of to be able to do a painting, because I'm like, I can make a painting, and to me that becomes the exterior, and the
Mhm.
painting becomes an opening a window into the interior. So yeah.
That's a beautiful way of looking at or thinking about it. Yeah. Um, well, we're almost running out of time, but will there be anything else that you wanted to bring up or maybe talk about your website or social media?
Sure. So as I had mentioned, that I do teach. So I do have one workshop and two classes coming up. And the one-day workshop that I'm co-teaching with a friend of mine, Carolyn Letman, who's also in the
Yeah.
Fourth Point Show. That's a one-day workshop for through Attleboro Arts Museum about drawing Enso and Zen circles, and then I am teaching two art workshops through RISD Continuing Education in the spring semester. One is the Expressive Sketchbook, and I can't wait to share
That
my love
sounds fun.
for it. Yeah. And the other is cold wax medium, because that's the other thing I think we didn't touch on, is that most of the work that I do is with cold wax medium, which is an additive to oil paints.
Awesome.
And so yeah, so those are a couple of workshops coming. And my website is rinastudio.com. And you can also find me on Facebook with the same name. And you can also find me on Instagram, which should, so any of these places, or just Google me, hopefully I come up.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear from you if you have any questions. I would love to get connected.
Yeah. And also you're still selling work through 4 Point, the small work show. Am I right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I do have a quite number of pieces in the small workshop.
Awesome. And I'll leave a link to that for anyone interested. Well, thank you again so much for like taking the time to talk to me and like talk about your work and your process. I hope you have a good day.
Well, thank you, Kim, so much. It was so much fun.
Yeah.